Christy. Thank you, Mr. Rose. It's a pleasure to see you in the chair. And can I say, firstly, I was at the starter, and this is the main course. I was at the SI earlier on today, which from the Department of Justice, which seems to justify whether this could go ahead. And we're now in the main course, I think, debating whether it should or shouldn't. I was surprised by the Minister's answer to me in relation to him not being aware of any instances of those seeking sanctuary or asylum in the country who claim they are adults and in actual fact in reality they are children. Can I tell him I am aware of that? I've got consecutive cases where that's the case, and I would like to thank Albert Lower and other organisations who look after asylum seekers in my constituency for raising these matters and looking after those particular individuals. And I think that all the asylum charities in Glasgow South West and in the great city of Glasgow should be commended for the work that they do around this particular area. Now, this statutory instrument is not some mundane statutory instrument that people think would be, for the simple reason is that it's not without controversy, this particular issue. And human rights groups have, of course, raised their concerns and condemned them. And I wonder if the Minister could tell us what responses have been given to those human rights groups who have concerns around the government's direction in this area. Because we do need to give regard to the fact that we are dealing with people who have suffered incredible trauma. Trauma in getting here, trauma in their experiences from where they have come from. Some of them victims of sexual violence, for example. And I know that from my particular caseload. There's a former immigration minister in the government side who knows that my office and the Home Office are in regular contact every week to discuss the many cases that we have, because Glasgow being an asylum dispersal area does raise all these issues. Now, can I say, Mr. Hosey, using MRI and X-rays in this area, I believe is beyond cruel. And experts are saying that this measure is unethical, will be inaccurate and potentially harmful. I note, Mr. Hosey, that the Scottish Government is opposed, and I note that human rights groups are as well. And one of the reasons for that is that risks the rights of children who have already been through unimaginable hardship. It's a question for me, Mr. Hosey, of values. And there's also those ramifications if one does not participate. The Minister was very candid, I thought, when he said if someone does not participate in this process, using inverted commas, without reasonable grounds, then it would be damaging to their case. I take that to be, if I picked him up correctly, that if someone refuses to participate in this process, then they might not receive a positive decision on their asylum claim. Now, there are reasons why people may very well refuse. It may come down simply to a language barrier, for example. It might be because, Mr. Hosey, as we're going to come on to, that these particular tests aren't even accurate, and the science behind them is not very, would not support supporting this statutory instrument today. I'll give way, of course.
I thank him for giving way, and I recall our many conversations in my previous role about his casework as a doughty fighter in that area. But if what he says is correct, and if we make some comments about the type of process, why do so many countries in Europe use them?
Well, I noticed that we've said that there are so many countries in Europe, but I noticed that not one country in Europe was actually named. So it'll be interesting to see if the Minister does mention countries in Europe, because I was curious about this, that we were saying that this was standard in Europe and not one country was named. So I'm looking forward to that particular answer, and I'm sure that that's been handed to the Minister right now in his little green post-it note that he's got in front of him. But however, yes, I am observant, Minister. Yeah. I am observant, Minister, but of course I'll give way to my friend. I'll give way to my friend from Sheffield.
I thank the Honourable for giving way, and I'm sure that, like me, he's amused by the government's reliance on other European countries as a benchmark for good practice. But does he recognise that although many other European countries do have the legal capacity to use biological tests, many of them have found that such tests have not worked, haven't added value, and therefore are discontinuing them.
Well, that's a very interesting intervention from my friend from Sheffield, who I know does a lot of work in this area, and as he mentioned, he was involved in the bill. And I'm going to come on to some of the concerns that experts have, and because I do believe the policy should be evidence-based. And unlike some cabinet ministers in this government, I do think that you should listen to experts when we come to issues like this. It opposes the principles, Mr. Jose, of informed consent, and also some of the recommendations set out by the body who was commissioned to look at this policy, as was mentioned earlier. It seeks to ignore, I think, some damning comments from the Royal College of Paediatrics. It says that informed consent is fundamental to all medical practice and by definition must be free from duress. If you have a system in which you're saying to someone that they must participate in a test, and if they don't, it's going to damage the claim, I would suggest that that is under duress, and that they're participating under duress. Further, the Royal College of Paediatrics said X-ray imaging for a non-medical purpose is not ethical. It further goes on, X-rays to determine age can be widely inaccurate. And as the Age Estimation Scientific Advisory Committee have said, there is no method, biological or social worker-led, that can predict age with precision. It can only estimate whether an age is possible. So it can only tell you if an age is possible, and it can't be precise. And therefore, we are into all sorts of difficulties if the government go ahead with this. Many children have faced, Mr. Jose, significant trauma in their journey to the UK. And they should be met with compassion and care, not unnecessary medical procedures. And the question has been raised to the government, what is the cost? And that is an excellent question. But I would also ask, what's the cost to the UK's reputation if it goes ahead with these tests?